On Tech News Today, iFixit tears down the iPhone 6s so you don't have to. Plus, we've got all the details from yesterday's Oculus event, and Microsoft ships an innovative app for scheduling meetings for the iPhone. It's all coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Friday, September 25th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Prosper. Prosper is a peer-to-peer lending marketplace that connects people who are looking to borrow money with those who have money to lend. Visit prosper.com/twit and receive a $50 Visa gift card when you get a loan. And by Braintree. If you're working on a mobile app and searching for a simple payment solution, check out Braintree. With one simple integration, you can offer your customers every way to pay. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to braintreepayments.com/TNT. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. My name is Mike Elgan, and our co-anchor is Mashable Senior Tech Correspondent and Pink iPhone fan Christina Warren. She's going to be on the phone in just a sec, on the Skype, I guess. And we'll bring her in when she gets here. But in the meantime, our big story today is, of course, the iPhone 6s and 6s Plus ship today. We've heard all the hype, but thanks to a teardown by iFixit, we can finally get at some long-awaited facts about what's actually going on inside the phone. Joining us to talk about the iFixit teardown is iFixit CEO Kyle Wiens. Welcome to the show, Kyle.
Thanks for having me on, Mike.
I'm so glad that you are on. You know, I haven't even had time to open the shrink wrap on this thing yet. And you guys, who are also based here in California, where the iPhone went on sale just 2 hours ago, posted your teardown more than 14 hours ago. That's did the whole teardown and posted it more than 14 hours ago. How'd you do that?
So we do it the hard way. We go where there's a 17-hour time advantage, and that is Melbourne, Australia. So we have some friends that run a repair shop in Melbourne, and they host us. And so we, every time the Apple releases one of these new iPhones, we fly out there. So I haven't actually taken the phone apart myself. Andrew and Sam, our teardown engineers, flew out there and got their hands on it, did the disassembly, took the photos, and then we did the analysis from the photos. Awesome.
Now, we already knew the phone would have an A9 processor with an embedded M9 motion coprocessor. We knew the RAMage, which now ranges from 16 to 128 gigs. We know about the camera, the 7000 series aluminum. We knew a lot of things, but there are things we didn't quite know before. Let's talk about what we learned from you guys' teardown. For starters, it looks like this phone is bigger and heavier, and the battery's a lot smaller. Is this correct? And do we know why it's bigger and heavier?
Yeah, so it's slightly thicker, but more visible than that, I guess, is the weight. So it's about 15. Well, the display is 15 grams heavier. So you've got the 7000 series aluminum is a little bit stronger. It's a little bit beefier, but most of the added weight comes from a thicker display, and that's the additional material they had to add for the 3D touch or Force Touch.
Yeah. So the so-called Taptic Engine is one of the features that Apple emphasizes for the iPhone line and also for their smartwatches.
Right.
Is this different in this phone than the previous iPhones? And also, you guys posted a great video.
Yeah, so we had to get an X-ray machine in Australia that we could use to take video of the Taptic Engine running. And
would you go to the doctor's office or something?
No, this is a very specialized X-ray machine, and this thing shoots 30 frame per second video. It's phenomenal. And even with that thing, trying to get the Taptic Engine video of this thing moving, you have to be able to see inside it as it's moving, and then shoot high frame rate video. And it is fast. You see there. I mean, even our frame rate was barely able to catch the movement. So this is a linear actuator, and there's springs on either side. There's electromagnets inside. It shakes back and forth, and that shaking is what gives you the feedback. And Apple claims, we were able to verify from the video, that it gets up to full speed within a single oscillation. So sometimes, like with a traditional vibrator motor, it takes a little while to get up to speed. This gets up to speed very quickly, which was important to them because they wanted immediate feedback when you touch on the screen.
Now, you found, of course, that the display assembly was heavier. And do we know what kind of glass they're using or what the materials are that's in that glass and apparently it's different from the previous phone, right?
Yeah, so we think that there's an extra layer in the display. We haven't completely pulled the display assembly apart yet, so we're still working on figuring out what all is different about the construction of it. But the speculation is that there's an additional layer of material in the display that's giving them the extra dimension, right? Before we had X, Y on the capacitive sensors. Now we need a Z dimension as well.
Wow. So
we're going to be pulling it apart more and investigating. The first teardown that we did was non-destructive. We didn't want to break it. And now we're going to get a little bit in deeper, and we're going to have to rip the display apart to find out.
Somebody's got to do it. Some breaking news. Christina Warren is now here. Welcome, Christina.
Hello, hello. What's up, Kyle? How are you doing? Great teardowns as always on iFixit.
Thanks, Christina.
So, Christina, we're going through and sort of interrogating Kyle here about the teardown, which is really cool as always. Now, one of the things that everybody's oohing and awing about once they start using the iPhone, for example, Christina Warren's pink iPhone, conspicuously
you spend all morning
pink.
in line.
It's pink.
Well, Christina's you've had that for a few days, right, Christina?
I've had it for about 2 weeks.
A couple of weeks, yeah. And so you this is all old to you. This is all old news for you. So one of the things that people like Christina Warren have been oohing and eyeing about is the 3D touch feature. Yes. What electronics are inside the phone that enable this feature?
Right. And so the 3D touch, I mean, we think there's an additional layer of capacitive sensors baked into the touch display, but we don't fully know yet. And this is, we were hoping we'd find it in our initial teardown, but we're gonna have to pull the thing apart and find out more. We did find a lot of display silicon in there, so there's some kind of fancy new stuff that they're doing, but we don't know all the answers to that yet.
So do you have a question, Christina? I'll let you catch up here. Yeah. So go for it.
Other than the new type of aluminum that you found, are there any other noticeable differences in the construction of the phone that you can tell versus the 6?
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly some additional shoring up around the perimeter of the phone. It's after the Bendgate situation, they wanted to they wanted to make sure that it was structurally rigid, and I mean it's subtle. The other thing that they did that we thought was interesting and might also potentially be helping with structural rigidity is that they have a very, very small amount of adhesive all the way around the perimeter of it. And when we opened it up, it came right out. It didn't prevent us from opening the phone. But we think that it may be helping to keep the display and the frame together a little bit tighter.
Interesting. Now, you found the expected 2 microphones. Do we know why they're using 2 microphones?
Anytime you're doing audio recognition, you're going to have a better time with 2 microphones. You can use it to isolate sound in the room. Amazon's Echo has 7 microphones. There's all kinds of algorithms that if you have 2 microphones, it's much, much easier to filter out background noise.
When it comes to the die design on the SoC, is there any change in size, or were they able to get everything, including the new motion coprocessor, into something the same form factor? Was there any change that you could observe on the die size on the chip?
Yeah, so the new die is larger, and that's interesting. We were expecting a die shrink with the process shrink, and the expectation is that moving the motion coprocessor on there has added to the overall silicon that they added. So a bigger die means it's more expensive to manufacture. You're going to have lower yield. We are looking forward to getting inside the die itself, and Chipworks is going to be doing some analysis for us over the weekend, and we'll find out more. But it definitely is a larger die than on the iPhone 6.
Kyle, any other surprises that come to mind?
Overall, I mean, this is incremental. It was interesting. A bunch of repair shops were asking me, what do you think about the new adhesive on it? And it's like, they're really optimizing for the 0.1% defect rate. And you see that with Apple, where there are just lots and lots of very minor improvements that are primarily designed around durability. So we see the improvements in the camera. There's some very fancy new silicon going into the camera sensor. So you've got the technology improvements. But what we tend to notice is incremental improvements in build quality and things that are specifically designed to either make it easier to repair or less likely to break.
And repairability, how does this fare compared to previous iPhones?
Yeah, so I'm kind of famous for giving Apple a hard time with their product
Yes,
releases.
you are.
Yes, you are.
So we call manufacturers out on the table when they do a bad job, when they glue things together in ways that are unfortunate. In this case, the new iPhone has more adhesive than the previous one, but we don't think it's a problem at all. The way that they did the adhesive was responsible. It's very easy to remove. Repair shops are going to have to figure out ways to replace the adhesive if it's necessary. But overall, very solid phone. Clearly designed from the beginning to be repairable. Huge improvement from the iPhone 5S, where the touchscreen or the fingerprint sensor had a cable that made it very difficult to open up and repair. Apple completely rerouted that cable in the iPhone 6, kept that design for the 6S. So both the iPhone 6 and the 6S get a 7 out of 10 repairability score, which is a very high score from us.
Not bad at all. Kyle Wiens is at, of course, iFixit.com and also at kylewiens.contently.com and on Twitter at KWIENS, K Wiens. Kyle, thank you so much for coming on Tech News Today.
Thanks for having me.
We got more news coming up, but first let's talk about Prosper. Prosper is the way to get a loan to buy that Oculus Rift computer. You're not going to want to use your current PC. You're going to want a monster. You're going to want a screaming monster. And Prosper is one way you can get the money to do that, or you can start a business. You can fix up your house. You can do all kinds of things. It's a great place to get a loan. In fact, you can borrow up to $35,000 in as few as 5 days and use the money for just about anything. You know, I sometimes go and browse the listings for the loans that people are getting, and one of the most popular things to borrow money for is to pay off high-rate credit cards. We're coming out of a recession, and people racked up all kinds of credit on their credit cards, and the rates just went through the ceiling during that period. And so a loan from Prosper will save you a ton of money because you can borrow the money, and you'll have a much much lower interest, and it's a much saner situation because the loan itself is just really great. It's a fixed payment. It comes right out of your account. There are no hidden fees, no prepayment penalties, none of that monkey business that you often see these days. It's very, very straightforward. And again, it's the way to borrow money. Now, for a limited time, Prosper is offering Twit viewers and listeners a $50 Visa gift card with your low-interest loan. You can get up to $35,000 in your account as few as 5 days, and that $50 Visa gift card. Just go to prosper.com/twit for this special offer. And we thank Prosper for their support of Tech News Today. The Oculus Connect event took place yesterday morning in Hollywood. The company and its partners announced a wide range of new products, services, and partnerships. Joining us to talk about all this are three people that I really enjoy reading. Jessica Conditt, senior reporter for Engadget.
Hey, guys.
Sam Machkovech, who is a culture reporter for Ars Technica.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning. And Kyle Orland, who's senior gaming editor also at Ars Technica. Welcome to you all. And
how's it going?
We'll start with Jessica. Jessica, what did we learn about the Oculus Rift product itself?
Yeah, so the consumer version, we still don't have a release date. We know it's going to be in Q1 2016. But overall, we have Oculus-ready PCs, these bundles of computers that are going to be with the minimum required specifications. So they're gonna be able to run a Rift right out of the box. Basically, they're going to start at less than $1,000, which is as close to a price point as we've gotten so far. For the actual Rift, we still don't know what that's going to cost when it comes out. But yeah, we found out a bunch of games that are coming to it. Epic showed off Bullet Train, this new shooter that seems really cool. It uses the Oculus Touch controls; those are the motion sensing controls, and it looks really cool. So a lot of content shown off, and not much in terms of like specific release date or pricing structure.
Were you impressed by that Oculus Touch controller, Jessica?
Absolutely. The painting game that they have, it's basically just an app that allows you to paint in 3D using these motion controls, polling and creating 3D objects right in front of you. Seems absolutely incredible. And we had one of our reporters at Oculus Connect, Joseph Volpe, tried that out and was just absolutely impressed by it. So really cool stuff.
Yeah, it looked really, really cool. Now, Kyle, you watched the event live via VR goggles. Can you tell us about that experience?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. We couldn't actually make it out to Hollywood, so the next best thing I figured was to actually put on my Gear VR, and through the Next VR app, they were broadcasting it in virtual reality. So I got kind of a 180-degree view of the stage. It was like a front row center seat. I could see kind of up Brendan Areeb's nose while he was standing right there in front of me. The only problem was with the resolution of the Gear VR. It was kind of an undifferentiated blob. I couldn't see every nose hair in that nose, for instance. And you didn't really get much out of something like this. For a press conference, just watching a guy walk around on stage, you know, I could have gotten that out of a 2D monitor very easily. For something like a live sporting event, I could see this being really exciting, following a soccer match or being right behind the quarterback with a floating camera in football and actually looking as he looks to see where the receiver is. That would be amazing. But something like this, especially when I was trying to cover it, I couldn't see my keyboard or Windows to talk to Sam and coordinate our coverage. I couldn't multitask. I couldn't look at Twitter while I was watching in VR. So you gain some and you lose some.
Yeah, we ran into something similar when the OnePlus 2 was announced, and they did that in cardboard. And I watched it on a Nexus 6, and the resolution was fine. But I had the same sort of feeling with you. I was like, you know, this would have been fine in 2D. But I think your point about sports games, especially football, is fantastic. Wouldn't it be amazing to really feel like you are literally right, you know, in the eye of the player, and when they follow the ground, you follow the ground? That would be incredible. Yeah,
and with cardboard, it's even worse because you had to actually hold it up to your head. So that must have gotten tiring after a while.
It was. I may have written a rant about the experience. And by may have, I mean I did.
Need to get a rubber band or something.
Well, in defense of people like me who think that more technology is always the solution, you could imagine an improved experience where you'd have your Twitter feed and a virtual keyboard and a virtual screen and a virtual everything, a virtual cup of coffee, you name it. And you could do the whole thing. The problem is that there just isn't enough stuff in your field of vision, and so you had to go back out into that bummer of a real world to actually do your work.
Yeah, right now, Gear VR seems to have enough trouble just running one app at a time. Yeah. So we'll eventually get to that multitasking world. Right now, we're in kind of the MS-DOS version, and we're a little far away from Windows 3.1 even. But we'll get there.
Yeah,
we're at King's Quest. We're not at Doom.
There you go.
So Sam, tell us what Samsung announced.
So Samsung has already had, as Kyle mentioned, the Innovator Edition of Gear VR, where you take your Samsung phone, slap it into a headset, put it on your head. That's $200 right now, and you have a more rudimentary virtual reality experience, sort of a halfway between the cardboard of taking a phone into a piece of cardboard and holding to your head, and the more smooth Oculus experience. So Gear VR is going to have a more general release version. It's going to be priced at $100, and it's going to be compatible with the I believe they listed 4 handsets. They said every 2015 Samsung phone will be compatible. It removes the overhead strap that had been on the prior Gear VR. It adds what they are calling a smoother touchpad, which is sort of the directional pad on the side, and a better form fit. It's going to be 22% lighter, and it's going to come out in November. The senior vice president from Samsung said it'll ship just before Black Friday, he said with a laugh. So I don't know that that'll necessarily be the #1 thing in the Black Friday rush, but the idea is it'll be out then. And yeah.
I absolutely love the coming holiday season because when you think about the products that are shipping, you know, that are going to be the biggest gifts, I think, for kids and adults, it's going to be lots of high-end Android phones, lots of high-end iPhones. It's going to be the iPad Pro. It's going to be the BB-8. It's going to be the Hello Barbie, for example. It's going to be
the Hello Barbie. No, I hope not.
It's not going to be the Hello Barbie. The Hello Barbie is terrible, Mike. Stop.
No, but people are going to buy it anyway. Yeah, it's not going to stop anybody from buying it.
But it's awful. Don't encourage it.
Yeah.
I think the NSA developed it, yeah.
And I think that this Samsung product is going to be big. I think cardboard-type things are going to be big. So almost all of the major gifts, I guess the point I'm trying to get at is almost all the major gifts are either robots, involve some sort of artificial intelligence, or some sort of virtual reality. So I think 2016 is going to be an incredibly futuristic future if you can think about, you know, what isn't going to have this stuff in it. It's going to be really amazing. Now, Sam, what about Netflix and the other content partnerships that were announced at this event?
Right. So I think there's been a lot of talk about having video watching abilities within a virtual reality headset. And Gear VR, I think, is an opportunity to really push that aspect, that you have your smartphone already, you have this affordable headset to go with it. And so the partnerships announced were Netflix, Vimeo, Twitch, for watching video game streaming, Hulu. These are essentially most of them are coming in a few months, But Netflix is now. Netflix exists now. You can take the Gear, if you have an Innovator edition of Gear VR, go through that shop and download what you see right here, which is just a virtual cabin scene in which you sit and watch Netflix on a screen. I know that Kyle actually used this. I've been talking to him about his experience with it, and I would love to condemn it, but I will let Kyle do that. I don't buy into it personally.
Yeah,
but.
Kyle, tell us about it, Kyle.
It's Netflix. You know, you sit there on a virtual couch in this weird rustic cabin, as you just saw in the video, and you have a Netflix screen in front of you. It's just a 2D screen. Being in virtual reality, I mean, it kind of separates you out from the rest of the world. It's like putting on blinders, I guess, but
right.
It's not as good a resolution as watching on a really nice monitor in HD TV because it has to condense everything down into that virtual reality. And as you turn your head, you get a little bit of jagged edges there. It's a nice thing to prove, hey, we can do it, but I don't see using it much unless maybe if you're on an airplane with a really good Wi-Fi somehow.
And even then, I would think on an airplane, you'd be better off with a tablet, you know, with an iPad or a Galaxy Tab or something like that, where you're going to.
Yeah, the only thing is with the enclosed space. With the enclosed space, there maybe you don't want the person next to you watching over your shoulder, or you just want to get away from yourself.
Sure. I mean, look, if you want to watch your porn in HD, is what you're saying, Kyle. I mean, that's what you're saying. And without being spied on, that's fine. But like, I mean, really, I think that. I don't know. I had a device that I reviewed back when I was like 15 or 16 that was one of those types of things that would let you kind of view like the equivalent of like a 50-inch TV in these, you know, goggles, these glasses. And it was the similar sort of experience, I'm assuming, that it's like in the Oculus, which is, okay, this is fine in VR, but in all likelihood, you're never going to use it. You're probably going to get a bigger headache than otherwise.
What I have liked in Gear VR is watching either panoramic videos where you can actually turn around and look at everything around you.
Right?
Yeah, that's not Netflix. Netflix is just 2D content.
Right.
That's everything. And
I think
but also, even if it's not panoramic, you could have a 3D content. If you were watching a 3D screen, that might be my preferred way to do it. Because when I watch like a 3-dimensional TV, the shutter glasses always give me a sort of headache. But when I'm watching on a Rift or a Gear VR, it's an amazing 3D effect, and it just seems totally natural. So that might be my preferred way to watch that kind of content.
I also think this sort of you know, watching a movie type of thing, existing content within VR will be more compelling when they add some sort of virtual you know, person, so you can sit there and watch a movie with either John Hamm or Scarlett Johansson or something like that, and then chit chat with them.
That would be cool if you could like turn to your left, turn to your right, and have someone there. That would be cool.
Exactly.
So John Carmack actually talked a little bit about this at the Oculus Connect keynote that he gave, and he said people think they'll like it, but then in real application, it's not as compelling. There's actually a feature on the Xbox 360 that they've had for a while where you could synchronize your Netflix and watch with an avatar of someone else right there in the virtual room. And it turns out no one uses it. No one even knows it's there. So maybe not the killer app everyone thinks.
Mm-hmm. And for Oculus, I believe like the Twitch app is going to have functions where you can chat and like hang out with your friends while you're watching Twitch streams, which is interesting. Because this is kind of Oculus's big challenge, especially with Facebook owning the company. They're going to want to try to transfer these kind of 2D digital worlds, like the social feeds and all the networking options that we have. They want to transfer that into VR, and we're not exactly sure how they're going to do it yet, and if it's going to be successful.
Jessica, they also announced Oculus Arcade. Would anybody want to play old 2D games in VR?
I mean, a lot of people still like playing Pac-Man and Gauntlet and all these other games that are going to come to VR. So the games themselves are fun, but yeah, do we need to play Pac-Man in VR? On like basically on an arcade cabinet in VR, similar to the Netflix, how they have just the cabin there. I don't know. I don't know how fun that's going to be. It might be a cool gimmick. It might be cool for nostalgia just to play something so old and something so new. But otherwise, I don't know what the draw is aside from just kind of getting that nostalgia factor in there.
I mean, I would say both Netflix and the arcade give us an opportunity. I think they give Facebook and Oculus an opportunity to put a Gear VR headset at Best Buy or a similar big box. Someone puts that thing on. They have 10, 15 seconds to get them to essentially open the envelope. You know, you want people to have anything that brings them in. And I think orange is the new black. or Pac-Man are going to be these sort of quick hit, oh, I could buy this for a dad, or I could buy this for someone else. And I think that kind of penetration is going to be so crucial to get the virtual reality experience across to people who aren't going to sit when they go to Best Buy or go to any of these shops where that might be their lead experience of trying it out, as to going, this is why I might consider this. So just, it's the open the envelope formula, I think. I don't think Netflix or Pac-Man or some of these other things that were announced are going to compel any of us, but I think that's that first step in order, they just want so badly for people to put these things on. Because there is a difference. There's a difference between before when you just talk about VR and after when you've actually used it in a way that's interesting. I know that for me, it took the HTC Vive set, which Valve is co-producing. One demo of that was really what turned me into this drank the Kool-Aid kind of person. And I think that is the ultimate reason why we're getting some of these, why the hell are they doing this sort of apps?
So personally, speaking of, sorry, go on, Kyle.
Personally, I hope they expand from the arcade cabinets in Oculus Arcade to pinball tables. I think that's something that could really benefit from the virtual reality perspective. You could actually follow the ball with your eyes. If you use the Oculus Touch controllers, you could actually shake the table, which is kind of missing from, if you're tapping on an iPad, it feels a little more artificial. If you can actually see the whole table in real size in front of you, that might be the next best thing to, buying a $5,000 table.
Well, speaking of, I think that's a great point. I think that a pinball would actually be awesome in VR. But speaking of things to be great in VR, would obviously be Minecraft. And they announced Minecraft for Oculus, right, Sam? But when we thought that there was a rift. See, that's funny, if you will, between Oculus and Minecraft. But I guess since Microsoft bought them, bygones be bygones. Is that basically what's happened?
This is a follow-up from the announcement that was made with Microsoft partnering with Oculus, with the idea that the Xbox One controller is going to be the default controller when you get the computer headset. This seemed like a very natural follow-up because they're saying it's the Windows 10 edition. So if you want to play Oculus Minecraft, you're going to need Windows 10. So Microsoft is still getting themselves very much in that ecosystem by making this move. This is absolutely a move that scratches both backs. How the implementation is going to turn out is the question. There's so many mod versions that people who are using the current development Oculus kits already are trying, and they're pretty wonky. And I know Lee Hutchinson here at Ars Technica is the one who's been flipping out. He's the one who's been wanting a good implementation of Minecraft. And if anyone's going to get it right, it's going to be the internal team at Mojang and Microsoft getting that working, getting that there, but they had nothing to show. They probably didn't need to. They can just trickle that information out. As months go on, we're going to see more video, more proof of it. But when it ships is a good question. That might not come until holiday season next year. We don't know. We have no idea.
Yeah, John Carmack said he's been working on it for a year and a half, and he has actual access to the GitHub from Mojang to work on the game, and he seemed incredibly excited about it. He said it's the thing he spent the most time with in Gear VR since he started working on it, game-wise.
And so, speaking of Lee Hutchinson, he's one of the only people who's actually seen the Matt Damon movie The Martian. So that lucky bastard.
Seriously.
Jessica, we'll let you have the final word here. How much do you personally, at this point, expect to actually spend on the Oculus Rift, including everything you're going to need for it, the system, the peripherals? What do you think you're actually going to be spending whenever all this stuff comes out?
Yeah, I mean, that's a big thing. Like the Gear VR, $99 price point, it's pretty attainable for a lot of people who are going to be buying tech things anyway. So Oculus, they've been saying they want to keep the price down. These Oculus-ready PCs are coming in starting at just under $1,000, it sounds like. So just to get the Rift, I'm going to expect probably about $500. I mean, 4 to 5 is where I would bet my money. And that's without a PC. If you don't have a PC that can run Oculus, it's obviously going to be about $1,500 or so. Yeah.
I think that's actually might be optimistic, personally, yeah. But I'm a pessimist. What can I say? Jessica Conditt is at Engadget.com and on Twitter at Jess Conditt. Thank you for joining us today, Jessica.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Sam Machkovech is at Ars Technica, of course, and on Twitter at SamRed. Thank you, Sam.
Great to be on. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. And Kyle Orland is at Ars Technica as well.com and on Twitter at Kyle Oral. Thank you so much for coming on.
Good to talk to you.
Canada's second largest mobile provider, TELUS, just told us the Android 6.0 Marshmallow rollout date, which will be Monday, October 5th. And, of course, we'll see this in all of its glory on Tuesday for the big Nexus event that Google's going to hold. I don't know if you've been following the rumors on the Nexus event on the 29th. That's Tuesday the 29th. We'll be live blabbing it. I'll be there personally, but Leo's going to live blab it from here in the Brick House. What do you think about some of these rumors, specifically the rumor that, or it's a report based on anonymous sources from 9 to 5 Google, that they're going to come out with a product called the Chromecast Audio for synchronizing speakers in the house. What do you think about that as a product idea for Google?
I think it's a great idea. You know, in a lot of ways, it's very similar to what was the name of the stupid orb thing that they made?
Yeah, the Q or something like that.
The Q, yes, the Nexus Q. It's similar to that, right? And I also honestly think that the Chromecast has completely disrupted the set-top box industry. A lot of us, myself included, have been surprised by its success. I thought it was a good product, but I thought that people would still maybe opt for a Roku or something like that. But the Chromecast has totally disrupted that. I think this could have the same impact, frankly, on the Sonos market, because Sonos is doing really well, but it's still a niche thing, and it's still an investment, right? You've still got to actually pay, a certain price to entry. So if you have something like this that is able to synchronize all of the speakers in your house, especially if you're talking about maybe anything that's internet connected, I think this could be really great.
Yeah, and there are other products in this category, and I was looking into it yesterday, and there have been a bunch of different products for synchronizing either home speakers or smartphones or both.
Yes.
And none of them have really taken off.
No, a new one actually just came out. This app this week called AmpMe, which AmpMe, which I've used, and it works well, right? Like it basically works over. It's kind of over Bluetooth, but it's basically using radio waves or sound waves and the microphone to sync together, and then you enter in a code, and that works pretty well. I think that those are good ideas. I think that it's better if you could obviously get home speakers to work that way. So if Google can get something to work in the home to all kind of be synchronized, I think that Bluetooth speakers are inexpensive enough at this point. This would be a cool way to kind of get a low-cost Sonos thing going, especially for parties.
Yeah, and the couple of other points. The other cool thing about the Google product is that it will probably use the speakers around your house to amplify whatever you're watching. So if you're watching a YouTube video, the whole house could be going with the sound from that video. So that's very cool. And regarding AmpMe, there's an underreported feature for that app where if the host, so there's a host and then there's
yes.
If the host is an Android phone, you can actually broadcast to Bluetooth speakers, even though it doesn't use Bluetooth. If the Bluetooth speakers have a microphone, it will use it like a smartphone, and those can be joined in a party, which I talked to the CEO of that company yesterday, and he told me that for their launch party, for the app, which I guess was yesterday, the day before yesterday, they synchronized 50 phones. And it was no problem.
Yeah, no, he was telling me the same thing, and yeah, they've synced phones, and also you can bring in Bluetooth devices too. I have to find out from him if he was able to use it with the Amazon Echo, because that was one speaker that he hadn't tested it with, and I don't know if that is too proprietary with the way they do some other stuff or not. But yeah, that's a really cool feature, like you said. You can use other Bluetooth speakers, but I do think that having some sort of audio device like that, if they can bring it in at the price point the way they did with Chromecast, at this point, I was someone who was not a big Chromecast proponent in the beginning, and I've obviously been wrong on that. So I would be the last one to bet against them now if they're trying to get into the audio space.
Hey, we should try something. We should try a stunt at the end of the show, Christina. We should try to synchronize using AmpMe over Skype.
We'll try this at the end of the show.
Yeah.
But we have some other news too, right?
We do indeed. In fact, government crackdown news. Bloomberg reported the U.S. Federal Trade Commission is investigating Google for an antitrust violation with Android. The FTC is following up on complaints from other tech companies alleging that Google has been using Android to gain an unfair advantage in online advertising.
Interesting.
We got one more chunk of news coming right up. But first, I want to tell you about Braintree, which, of course, is code for easy online payments. My goal in life is to get every single developer who has an app that sells things or a website that sells things on Braintree, because it will save you a ton of hassles and problems, and it will make your users and customers super, super happy. It works in 40 countries and 130 currencies. And with instant approval, you can start accepting payments in minutes. Putting in the code takes like 10 or so minutes. They have all kinds of great features like buyable pins, for example. And they have all kinds of libraries for 6 server-side languages, mobile SDKs for iOS and Android. This is the way to do payments. You got to use Braintree. You got to use Braintree. That's all I can say. Braintree gives you a full-stack payment solution, support for all payment types your customers might want. And you can start accepting PayPal, Apple Pay, Bitcoin, Venmo, credit cards, and a lot more, all with a single integration across all platforms with superior fraud protection, customer service, and fast payouts. To learn more and for your first $50,000 in transactions fee-free, go to BraintreePayments.com/TNT. Well, the news you can use, Microsoft has launched a new iOS app called Invite for setting up meetings. Android and Windows 10 versions are coming shortly, according to the company. Now, you can use the app with any email service, and it uses email to coordinate meeting times that work for all meeting participants, which are then voted on by participants, and the most popular meeting times win. The app was developed by an internal group called Microsoft Garage, which exists to get experimental products into the wild to see if they win users. Invite is currently available by invitation only, appropriately enough, in the U.S. and Canada only. Christina, what do you think about this?
Okay, there was an app that was exactly like this. It was called like Tangle or something that BlackBerry bought and then killed.
Yeah.
A few years ago. It's a great idea.
It's a great idea, and the design on this looks really good as well.
It does. The design looks fantastic. I really like it. I think well done, and I like that this is done internally by Microsoft because, like I said, the last one that did this sort of thing, you could vote on the ideas and it would email everyone their stuff. It wasn't a mobile first step. It was an email kind of based thing. BlackBerry bought it, and then, BlackBerry, what happened to RIM happened to RIM. So that kind of went away. So, no, I think this is cool. I definitely will probably be using this.
Well, speak of the devil, the word of the day is priv or prive or something. BlackBerry CEO John Chen confirmed that the name of BlackBerry's Android slider phone handset is the BlackBerry PRIV, as rumored. The Crackberry forum has been debating for days about how you say this because, of course, it's short for privacy, so maybe it's prive. Or if you speak British English, it's privacy, so maybe it's priv, and some people are even forwarding the theory that it's priv. What do you know how to say this, Christina?
I don't know how to say it, but I do know that it's terrible.
It is.
I mean, I thought the Leap was a really bad name. Remember when they had the Leap was kind of their like intro, like low cost phone for junior executives or some BS. I thought that was a terrible name, but the prive, it's awful. It's awful. The phone actually looks pretty decent. It looks like a pretty decent Android slider. This name is absolutely terrible.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Mobile Doc in Malaysia, who posted this picture on Twitter. And he says he takes his tech news today with wonton noodles in the local Kopitiam, which is a coffee shop. And there it is. That actually looks quite delicious. I got to get over to Malaysia one of these days, Christina. The food looks amazing. Christina Warren, thank you so much for co-anchoring Film_Girl on Twitter.
Yes.
And the pink iPhone.
And I got my pink phone. Sorry I was late, guys, but I have my pink phone, and it wouldn't be Friday if I weren't on Tech News Today.
I know. Yay. Tell me about it. Tell me about it. All right, Christina, thank you so much. We'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys.
Right,
bye.
bye-bye.
See you next week.
Let us know what's on your mind. Send email to tnt@twit.tv or call 260-TNT-SHOW. That's 260-868-7469. So you can subscribe to Tech News Today on Stitcher or choose another way to subscribe at twit.tv/TNT. And you can watch us live every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1700 UTC at twit.tv/live. You can follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV. You can follow me at elgan.com. Don't miss our other news show, Tech News Tonight at 4 p.m. Pacific every single weeknight. And that is the Tech News Today. The show is produced by Jason Cleanthus and edited by Kevin King. My name is Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you Monday.